Hello, and welcome to Time Ram, the new Doctor Who podcast, in which we take a random number generator and we generate a number from 1 to 13, which gives us our Doctor, and another number from 1 to apparently 298, which gives us a story, and then we ram them together and see what happens. I'm your host, Barry Williams, but that's not important right now. And with me are my fellow hosts, Mr. Paul Ferry.
Hello.
And Mr. Rupert Booth.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So the rules are, yes, we just talk about TV stories, and we're not covering Big Finish or anything like that. And we've picked two.
We're keeping it simple, clearly. We're only covering the entirety of televised Doctor Who. It's fine.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. We're not covering Doctor Who annuals or comic.
Mind you, that could be a Time Ram special. That would be
Sinister
great.
Sponge.
Yeah, the lair of the Zabi Supremo done in like 1976, just really off its tits. Great.
You know, after years and years, I only very recently read The Sinister Sponge. And after seeing those kind of pictures for years that are really disturbing, the actual story is ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with those pictures. It's
about the fourth Doctor era.
Yeah, it's got like giant cabbages and things. They were obsessed with cabbages for some reason.
Was Tom in the office that day?
Yeah.
I remember one of the Fourth Doctor comic strips just disturbed me for years and years. I think it's one where a scientist creating an intelligence in a sort of tank, and it's destroyed at the end, and he's very distraught. And I don't know why, but that stayed with me.
The one with the skeleton man got me. The one that he's been made mostly invisible apart from his bones.
Oh yeah.
They put him half right. But and he's disturbing as fuck. But the other thing I remember about that is that Leela doesn't look like Leela. She's kind of looking like she should be smoking like the Countess in City of Death. You know, she's kind of lounging about the place going, oh, disturbing skeleton man. I'll get my Janus thrown out. I can't be bothered. Life's so existentially dull, Doctor. You know, it's that version of Leela that you never get in the series, which would be great.
Yeah. And then kind of every sort of, fifth or so frame, the artist just can't be bothered to draw a face. So she's just like hair with like a blank face.
Those sapphire and steel, those strips are weird. We should make them. What we need to do is basically get a load of cash between us and make them as fan bids, but like throw all the CG at them, really make them strange and like they've come off cartoons, like kind of 70s European cartoons does Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I believe that was the era when the artist said he was drinking a lot of real ale. So.
Yeah, I remember that.
Real ale, didn't he? That wasn't fake ale. That was real ale.
Paul Krotons, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's real ale as a euphemism for something a little bit stronger.
I'm absolutely sure of it. I mean, you don't draw things like that on real ale. No.
Anyway,
it was very hot.
Anyway, tonight we've rolled a number 7 for Sylvester McCoy, and we've rolled another number. I don't know what, presumably somewhere in the 40s, and we've got the Krotons. So, what do we think about that?
I think it's very complicated. I think structurally. So last time we had it easy. We had Doctor Companion in a story with Doctor Companion. Great. We've got Patrick Troughton with 2 companions, Jamie and Zoe, so male and female, and we've got Sylvester with either Mel or Ace, unless we ram it and have Sylvester with Mel, because we're making new seasons here, aren't we? Basically,
yeah.
So presumably, if we want to carry over a companion, maybe this is Mel's last story. Maybe at the end she'll stay on the planet of the Gods to help them. So we could have Mel and Mace.
I watched it and I didn't think that Jamie really did anything that couldn't be done by somebody else.
Yeah, his stuff's all padding.
Yeah.
That's the other thought about it. Yeah. So though, to be honest, I think the Mace version is more interesting because you have Ace doing all the Jamie stuff and kind of go, "Oh, you call it small?" It's going what? Well, it probably isn't actually because it's a different type of Kroton completely, isn't it? We'll come to that. So structurally, what are we doing then? Are we?
Well, I'd say definitely Mel for the Zoe role.
Yeah.
And then we can see if we can get away with just that, or I don't know.
It's It's just hilarious if it's Ace.
Yeah.
And there is the advantage with it being Mel that she'd finally get to show these amazing computer skills that were always talked of, never seen. So it would actually be a really good. All right, so Doctor and Mel.
Okay, so we're in
So
season
that's putting
24.
it squarely in season 24.
Yeah,
So we've probably got Keff McCulloch for a start.
we've got Keff
That's
McCulloch,
likely.
yeah. Andrew Cartmel has got 14 episodes to play with and has inexplicably decided to make the Krotons.
because he's found a script from Robert Holmes from 1968 or something, and they're desperate.
Absolutely. I can't imagine Mel in that little PVC outfit that Zoe wears.
That's a very short skirt, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that is quite clear in the program that she rips the side out of that jacket, and then in the next scene it's miraculously fixed.
I keep wishing they'd have left things like that. I love it when by the time you get to Edge of Destruction, Ian and Barbara's clothes are fucked. They're just broken and torn because they've been through caves, lots of caves, and petrified forests and Daleks, and so my clothes would be knackered.
I can only assume the TARDIS has got a sort of really good dry cleaner in there somewhere.
This is the Doctor. Present time, the High Council of Time Lords. Keeper of the legacy of Rassilon. Defender of the laws of time. Protector of Gallifrey.
So I'm assuming that it won't be 4 episodes since the first McCoy era. It's going to be like 2 or maybe 3.
Well, if we follow the pattern of the season, we've got 4 or 3 as choice, haven't we?
Yeah.
And it does seem. I think Cartmel would indeed cut all. If we're cutting the Jamie padding, well, if we're cutting Jamie, then it'll be useful if we can lose an episode's worth of padding as well. So let's say it's a 3-part. So basically, this is Delta and the Bannermen now.
Okay, so apparently the script was originally written for Out of the Unknown.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
Was it? I think it wasn't a full script. Well, it was a pitch. It was a sort of breakdown, a story breakdown. I think, wasn't it?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was struck when watching it that the opening scene could come out of an episode of Out of the Unknown.
Totally, it could.
Yeah.
It's literally a bunch of guys stood around a door.
Yep.
2 young people, Abogond and Vanagond, are selected to join the Krotons. They become companions of the Krotons. And Abogond doesn't really get to say much, but he looks fairly keen, and he goes straight through the door. Vanagond, you kind of know that probably isn't going to face the same fate because she's just got such massive hair and eyelashes.
And that's not going to change. Let's face it. That's not going to change in the 80s. It'll be multicoloured. But just as you were describing that, I'm thinking this is going to be so garish in 1987. This is going to look horrible.
Yeah, it's going to be colourful with sort of bubble things on the walls, isn't it? It's going to look quite plasticky.
There's probably someone in a peak cap, officiate Elec. He's probably got a peak cap like the toll keeper. You know, he'll have a purple suit on and be looking, purple.
Yeah.
So we've got most of the sort of main cast in this scene. So Vanagond is there, as we say. She's about to go through the door. She's got a boyfriend called Thara, who's not terribly happy about it. The leader is Selris, and then we've got Philip Maddock.
Yeah.
Wasted really as Elec, just hugely charismatic and evil.
It's his first time on Doctor Who. He had to prove himself, and they get him back like 2 weeks later in the War Games, so he did his job well. Enough time to grow a bit of a beard. He's great. Elec's. I think he's perfectly cast actually in the Krotons. You want the quiet, simmering undertone of menace. He's always there, and he's always just quietly purring like that. He doesn't get irate too often. He spends a lot of time skulking about and going and sort of bullying Beta. And just by standing there kind of going, yes, maybe I'll just throw your test tubes over because I'm Welsh.
So is Philip Maddock playing that in the sort of mid to late 80s?
Nah, I don't think Philip Maddock is stuck in the mid to late 80s. I don't know.
So who's
Selris?
Who's Elec? Who's Selris? Yeah.
I mean, James. Someone is it James Cairncross? And that's Peter.
James Cairncross. Yeah.
The thing about Selris in the original, he's got his fists clenched all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. until you don't notice it. I haven't noticed it for years, and then one day I saw it, and he's standing in doorways with his fists clenched, and you might be kind of going, how are things, Selris? He's going, oh, fine, I'm all good, mate, but his fists are clenched. This guy, you've got conflict, you've got inner conflict, man. You've got problems, Selris. Fearful. Yeah. So
I'm guessing Varno's going to be like Sarah Griffiths or someone like that, but
well, she'll be Varna.
Yeah.
I was thinking about who we could cast in this, and a lot of the Gonds are such ciphers that it's really hard to think of people to play them, because there's only about 2 of them that have any sort of character, really.
J&T stunt casting doesn't have much stunt here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got Selris, but Selris, apart from the fist clenching thing, he's not a fantastically dramatic or interesting character. He as you say, he's a cipher. He's the one who's the leader.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
And also, in an exciting twist, Thara's dad. Thara's much more interesting. Thara and Elek, as the 2 driving forces of Gondism. Gondary? Gondorama. Gondness. They've got the most Gondness. But they're the Gondiest Gonds.
I think they got a secret agent called James Gond.
Oh, that's their entire fiction. That's all the Krotons let them have. But he's not very exciting. He grows turnips and saves them from birds. Do they have birds in the wasteland? I don't know.
It's a bit weird they're all called Gonds as well. I mean, how interbred are they?
It's an interesting planet, this one, isn't it? It's one of those ones where the entire population appears to consist of a really small settlement around a dinosaur.
Yeah.
The Thals suffer from that problem quite a bit, I think. It's in the Daleks, it's kind of like, we are the Thals. Well, all of them. There's about 12 of you. Well, there's only about 6 Daleks, so fuck off. But, I
was confused as well. I was confused by the extent of the wasteland. I mean, is it all around them, or is it just this little area, or what? I don't really.
Well, so didn't Silvermen come from the sky and poison the land or something? So I guess So maybe there were more Gonds. And the Krotons descended and massacred loads of Gonds, and then said to the rest of the Gonds, "Now you don't want that to happen to you, do you? That's a warning. We like them. You'll be hearing this a lot." So maybe there's an entire Gond civilization that the Krotons just annihilated. But are there Gonds on the other side of the planet? Are they called Nons? Who knows?
Blondes?
Wands? There could be all sorts of these groups all over the place, and I like the idea of it, and it's my headcanon now. And now let's make a fan.
They seem baffled by the idea that the Doctor and company might come from anywhere else. They don't seem to be able to wrap their head around the concept of people that aren't Gonds.
I really like that, because that's indicative of years of conditioning by the Krotons. They're not allowed to consider anything that might be dangerous, and the prospect that the Krotons may have come from elsewhere might lead them down a thought line pathway thing. And the central concept of it, of controlling. It's quite 1984, it's like newspeak. If they can't express the thought, then they ain't going to have the thought. The thought isn't going to be transmitted. It's sort of like that. And I'm absolutely sure that Andrew Cartmel would play much more upon that. I think it would be a lot more about how the Gonds would be manipulated.
By Thatcher.
Thatcher. Well, I mean, they are a slave class, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
Being exploited by their glittering overlords.
Yeah.
We know how that feels. Yeah.
Mind you, in fairness, Delta and the Bandmen isn't very much about Thatcher either.
No. Well, at the time, I didn't think any of them were about Thatcher, but apparently they all were. So.
Having said that, this is by Robert Holmes, who presumably, hopefully, at some point in his career before this, in the eventual time ramage that we end up with, has written The Sunmakers. So even if it was just the season before, in the second part of Trial of the Doctor.
Okay, so the Doctor and his companions arrive. The TARDIS appears in a quarry.
This is Lacertia. This looks exactly like Lacertia.
Yeah. I noticed in the original that, I mean, it's quite cool. The planet's got twin suns, but it is dark as fuck.
Cartmel, he's a dark Doctor now.
It's going to be a lot more colourful in the 80s, isn't it?
Yeah, they'll have a pink sky or a green sky or
Yeah.
And he's got an umbrella as well, so that fits perfectly with McCoy, doesn't it?
Excellent. But it's all on OB video, so it looks horrible.
They find a door in the wall, and Abogond appears and is immediately dispersed.
Mm-hmm.
without having really had any lines. And there's nothing left but his necklace. You think there should be a big pile of them, but it's just the one.
And you know the music that the Keff does when they find the skeleton of San in Time of the Rani. It's all that kind of bing, stuff going on.
Yeah. When he's getting dispersed, it would be the da 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 music, wouldn't it?
It would. Yeah, I'm afraid it would.
Did he write any other bits of music? That's the one I mainly hear.
Oh, we've got them covered.
Yeah, it's mostly.
You're listening to the best of Keff McCulloch on Time Ram Radio, and a good night to all you truckers.
What? So anyway, the Doctor kind of walks around the corner, I think, and he's kind of captured by the Gons in the learning hall.
Yeah, so Mel screams, and the Gons all shatter, and that's the end of the story.
Well, in the original, Jamie has a massively long fight scene, but we can cut that.
Well, Sylvester would do a bit of physical business, stuff he does really well. You know, like he'd wave an axe at him and he'd get his umbrella around it and go, yeah, it's on the floor.
Do some pratfalls.
Yeah.
Yeah, that whole scene with Jamie's really strange in the original because this guy's coming at him with a bloody hammer, and he's offered a hammer, and he kind of goes, "Oh no, you're all right there."
Fine, thanks. Maybe he feels he hasn't had enough chance to impress Zoe yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible fight scene. It's one of those really kind of like, we'll just move that a little bit more slowly than we should, and you can just, yeah.
Eventually, I'll just let go of the hammer for no reason.
Yeah, this bloke's really not going for him. Yeah.
Did you hold him your wrist? Yeah, and you see, I said if Mel screamed, the Gons would shatter. The Gons are delicate.
They are not high brains.
They're not high brains. They're not even high bodies.
Varna gets put through the other side of the machine to become a companion of the Krotons, and the Doctor's disturbed enough by what he's seen that he takes Thara and the Tards, I've called them here. The Tards go to the wasteland to save Varna, and which they do.
So who's Thara played by? Thara's going to be someone like Pex, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe even that guy.
Was he called Howard Cook?
Cook, yeah. Should we cast him? And basically kind of looking with spiky hair and stuff, you know.
Well, he couldn't be more miscast than he was as Pex.
He'd be better cast as Thara, probably.
Yeah, because Pex was supposed to be this big muscle guy, and he clearly isn't.
Pex is basically meant to be Absalom Dark or something, isn't he?
Yeah.
Kind of, younger. But Thara's a much better part than Pex, I think. For him, certainly.
If you're casting Howard Cook, I'm already seeing Thara as a bit of a failure.
So we've got all right. So we've got Thara cast. Who's playing Varna? Gond.
Sarah Griffiths for my money.
Sarah Griffiths, right?
Yeah.
Done. Always liked her. Thought she was great in Delta.
Any ideas for Elec?
What about cast Philip Maddock as Selris? He's the right age.
Yeah, have a switcheroo.
So he's not. So Selris is basically a really commanding figure now. He's great. He's really selling the torture of the guy who's trying to help his people, but raiding his son, but suspects the Krotons for being Thatcher. So Elec, I haven't got a clue who's playing Elec. Lee John.
He's got the right number of E's.
He's got the right number of E's. The E number is correct. Lee John. And so Elec's terrible.
That's just embarrassing at that point.
But Elec's in all the publicity photos, like holding his axe to Sylvester's throat, and Sylvester's going, doing a face.
Varna's in a trance. They save her from the disperser, which is in the original is a nice bit of dry ice coming out of some pipes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not going to be that, is it? It's going to be some mega effect.
It's going to be some laser effects, yeah.
You know the glitter things in Time of the Rani, they shoot the text.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
It'll probably have an effect. It'll have a grotty effect. It'll have some Quantel chucked in there, yeah.
Yeah, some kind of video effect that attacks her anyway.
And it might leave a skeleton rather than just leaving the thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And as Paul said, of course, his umbrella gets destroyed at this point, so we'd have a right paddy about that.
Yeah.
See, this fits in. If it was in kind of Delta's slot, that's where very, if you pardon the expression, that's where he goes from having just like a regular umbrella to having the question mark one.
I thought the
So
same
you could
thing.
start.
Yep.
You could start off with a regular one.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, cool. So umbrella destroyed, and he's having a paddy, and they head back, don't they?
Yeah, they go back to Selris' house where Selris explains the background.
Mesmerizing me in his drawl.
Yes. The silver men who came down from space. And there's a scientist as well called Beta who pops in briefly just to warn Selris that Thara's now attacking the teaching hall.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to break the learning machines.
He's a bit of a comedy character, isn't he, later on when he's kind of making the acid and stuff. So I think they'd play that up a bit more in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's reasonably subtle in the 60s, but I think in the 80s...
A bit like, what's his name? Oh, I can't remember either the actor or the character in Modern Who, in the one with the flying bus woman.
Oh, yeah.
Like the scientist.
Lee Evans.
Professor, and that is a fan, but, you know, this is the comedy scientist type.
Yeah.
To think of a sort of... Now we'll have to think of a sort of comedy actor of that era.
Yeah, it's not a Jasper Carrot type role, but it's
Chris Barry.
Barry.
He was around. Well, he was quite young, but yeah, he was in a sort of.
It's the year before the first season of Red Dwarf.
Yeah, it's the year before Red Dwarf.
Chris Barry. Oh, yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah.
All right. A young Chris Barry. Yeah. Okay.
Chris Barry as Beta. Excellent. 1 year before he went on to find fame in Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they all run back into the learning hall.
So we've had the big info dump, haven't we? That's the big early info dump. You know, here's the setup, and here's what's wrong with our world, and the doctors start to go, very bad.
Yeah, we've had the info. Selris gives the info dump, so there's quite a lot about the history of the planet and how they got to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a few sort of scenes of Thara going into the hall to attack the learning machines.
Beating up that guy with the mustache, who, because of his mustache and the way he looks, you think should be called Morris, and I think is.
So the thing, the learning hall would, I think it would look more, the set rather would look more or less the same.
The machines would look different.
You know, just the same sort of, just consoles.
I have a feeling the set wouldn't be half as good, to be honest. I don't think it would look as effective. I don't know, it depends what they come up with, but you look at something like Ice World, it's just really badly realised. You know, it looks really cheap and probably overlit and all that sort of bit.
It's all very BBC at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't think this set would be half as atmospheric as it is.
Yeah.
I don't think the lighting would be half as good. I think apart from in one major area, the design would probably suffer in comparison to the original. You can probably guess what the major area is.
Yeah,
the machines would blow up when they smash them, though. They wouldn't just be like wood that goes through. And
it's clearly just sort of hardboard that he's just sticking his fist through.
They are. That's very 60s Doctor Who, isn't it? You know, you smash it and it's hollow wood.
Just got visions of Barbara smashing the Moffat Unbrain creature.
Well, she breaks one. The first one just goes like that, and then the rest of them, and you're thinking, yeah.
Unless there was only one of them actually designed to break.
And then bless it, only one of its things goes down at the end.
To happen.
It's kind of like, oh, that was really vivid in the book.
We're nearly at the end of episode 1. We kind of, do we get, this is a warning at that point? I think we do.
This is a warning.
This is a warning.
So they're not going to sound like that, are they?
A massive, well, the doctor's gone in there to stop what's going on, but he's too late. They've already smashed several machines.
There will be no battle here.
And then a massive Kroton penis comes out of the spaceship.
Yes.
And threatens him. And that's the end of the episode.
Keff starts giving it some.
Yeah. At least it's the end of the episode in sort of the 4-part version. I guess we'll probably go on a little bit further. But,
I'm kind of picturing it as similar to the end of that episode.
Oh, he's down on the floor.
Kind of, he's sort of, it finishes with him sort of cowering in a corner and the thing's kind of snaky efforts coming at him. Yeah.
And Mel's screaming and Keff's giving it some. And it's all horrible. And Sylvester Gurns, and I think in terms of the structure, you see, I'd say we probably just lose a lot of episode 3, which is the mainly padded one, isn't it?
Yeah,
they're all much slower than you'd get in the 80s. I mean, the pacing is completely different.
So the flying wraith penises,
Yeah, so the Doctor's being pursued by flying wraith penises, which he defeats by hiding his face.
Clever Doctor.
As you do.
Very clever. And then they kind of leave. And in the original version, the Doctor tricks Jamie into looking after Varna. But I mean, I'm sure Thara can do that.
Thara can do it much better. Thara's probably quite happy to spend time with Varna.
Yeah.
Thara's just all over Varna, you can tell. I mean, every time that he's just practically panting whenever he sees her. Maybe that's why Selris has got his fists clenched. Because he's Philip Maddock. He's just standing there watching. Worryingly.
So the Doctor and Mel go back to the learning hall, where the Doctor checks out a cave where there's the foundations of the machine, which he says are root-like, but I mean, you know, we see them later on. They don't look particularly root-like to me.
No.
And while he's doing that, Mel's at a loose end and starts to use her computer skills to defeat the learning machines.
With a bit of hobbly-bubbly Keff McCulloch music going on. Sort of, you know, a bit in time with the Rani. She's doing a bit of that, you know, and having a potter around and killing time horribly. In what we've established is probably a fairly garish, plasticky ovalite set.
Yeah.
Man, we should release a soundtrack album.
Well, fans, this is the glory of it, you see. Once it's all done, fans can curate their own soundtrack albums.
Yeah.
You know, you can take the season 24 ones and just reallocate them. I don't know where you're going to put Here's to the Future and the various Dick Barton things. But let's see what the time ram gives us.
So, I mean, we finally get to learn a little bit about Mel here, I guess, that she's actually using her computer skills.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And she enjoys the problem-solving side of it as well. You know, it's kind of like, all right, then. It's still not that much to her, is it?
No.
This is the trouble with Men All Over. At the end of the day, there's not an awful lot on the page. It's you know, nothing against Bonnie Langford, who does what she's given, but she ain't given much by either script editor. Sayward just, I think, didn't care. Well, he was packing his bags by the time she comes along, practically, wasn't he?
Yeah. I think it's a good reason. I mean, it's with good reason that nobody else before or since introduced a companion without having an introduction for them. Because they did it with her, and it doesn't work. Because you need that to get to know them.
I don't know. One could argue that Susan was like that.
I suppose, yeah.
But she's
like introduced along with the
Doctor.
Doctor.
She's the centre of attention. She's the mystery. She's the way in. You know, she's the thing about the episode for the first time. So, you know, it's kind of the
set up as a mystery. It's more interesting than Mel, who's set up as nothing. You know, she's just
she's into fitness, and she's only into fitness because the cast Bonnie Langford who's a dancer.
Yeah.
You know, not for any character reason, not for that never gets used either. She hops and skips a bit, but any physical prowess she has. Since something like Ark in Space, getting through that narrow tunnel that Sarah has to study through. Mel, great. That's exactly what she's good at, because she spends her time doing that in the gym for some reason. But you know what I mean? Intelligent use of the character's traits and building them into the story rather than just going, she does this, she likes that.
Yeah.
She'll be leaving soon. You know, it's a shame. It's a shame. So yeah, she's showing she's good at computers. It's still not great, really, is it? So, yes, that thing I told you I could do, doing it. Rob, done it now. That's my scene. That's me for the entire season.
Now I must dance.
I mean, Perry's supposed to be a biologist, but it's never really comes out.
Occasionally on in Time Lash, she kind of goes, "Oh, what interesting plants."
Yeah, and she keep a flower in Revelation as well, I think.
Yeah.
Before getting tied to a pole for a bit, yeah.
But that's at the end of the season when someone's gone, shit, she's into biology. Say something about biology.
She never goes back to finish her exams, though, so, you know, she's not really qualified.
No, she might finish her exams on Krontep.
What?
Stop feeding the triffids, dear.
Anyway, the Doctor comes out of his cave and he's horrified to find that Mel has passed the test and has now been accepted as a companion of the Krotons. So he takes the test himself, which is a nice sort of comedy scene at this point.
He wouldn't be as aggrieved as Troughton is. Zoe and the Doctor have got this sort of ongoing intellectual rivalry going, haven't they, about who can say the cleverest thing. Jemmy doesn't give a shit. Jemmy's just going to stand there kind of going, oh, they killed Swafty. But yeah, this is going to be kind of, again, sort of squandered in that way, because you absolutely should do a rivalry. And it would be a nice early developing trait for the Seventh Doctor to show that he's still got that kind of pride The Doctor sometimes doesn't like being challenged intellectually and gets a bit flustered about it.
Yeah.
Hartnell particularly, will go off on one. He's kind of like, "You're questioning me?" Not in that accent, obviously.
Nice to get a little bit of conflict into the Doctor Mel relationship rather than,
Yeah.
the stands. There's nothing.
I just can't fathom any because they never have any. They never even argue.
That seems a little odd in the original because he's doing all the comedy bit, and then he sort of carries on a bit, and the next thing the computer's hailing him a high brain, and you're thinking, yeah, have you forgotten that he was getting it all wrong like 2 minutes ago?
It kind of skips over. It feels like it's kind of jumped ahead about 15-20 minutes. He's just answered as many questions as it needs.
He's just logged back in again under another name.
I think the Gonds don't set a high bar. I think to be a high brain on Gond, you don't have to be a particularly high achiever. It's the kind of what we would term a middling brain. Is to Gond a high brain, planet Gond.
So they're both accepted as companions of the Krotons, and they enter the machine. There's a big ball, a force ball, which they managed to resist with the help of a bit of I don't know, was it bicycle chain, something like that?
Yeah.
Do we need all that?
Probably not.
I'd say let's cut that. I'd say that they explore a bit and doors close behind them and close them off. Shepherd them.
Yeah.
That scene always bemuses me somewhat. Yes, a bowl comes down and spins it. I remember in 1981 going, "What the fuck is going on?" Weird. I got the cavemen one, but they have no idea. Oh, look at his face; it's got all brr. Fisheye lens. It was really surreal. I think it's a great sequence. But
it gives Sylvester a chance to gurn, wouldn't it?
You know what? We can't lose it because that's them being drained and it activates the Krotons, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Krotons emerge from the slurry bath.
Yeah. So now we get to the crystalline life form in the room, really, don't we? Because this is the first time we've seen the Krotons, and they're not going to look like the Krotons we know and adore.
It occurred to me they might be. I mean, viz the Deltmen, Bannermen, they might be quite minimal. They might just be two blokes painted silver.
I thought about this, and I thought, right, crystalline, you're going to get something like Eldrad, the male version of Eldrad, a humanoid, but in a sort of crystalline type costume, because you've got good people working on it. The biomechanoid and Dragonfire is a nice costume. It would look good. So I think it's aren't they described as humanoid but crystalline in the script? And Robert Holmes, when he saw them, went, "All right, whatever." The description in the script is nothing like the realization, as far as I remember, because they look like robots. The head's the only concession to the sort of crystalline formation that everyone knows. In the design of them. So I don't know what was going on in Bobby Bartlett's mind. She was not being a high brain that day.
I love the way they appear to have kind of designed them like down to the waist and then just went, let's just have a skirt.
Just stick a skirt.
Well, apparently the story is that but they haven't. I mean, the designs exist and they're designed like the whole thing,
Right.
But apparently they got the size wrong. There was some miscommunication. So they ended up being much bigger than they were supposed to be. Which I think looks great in episode 4 when you've got them standing next to Troughton and Padbury, who between them are about 5 foot. One standing on the other's shoulders. And these things just towering over them, But of course, that's one of the great scenes when the Krotons are standing still. They're fine when they're standing still.
Yeah.
And you can't see below waist level.
We've got kind of slightly more glittery Eldrads, basically. We agreed on that?
Yeah.
I guess they still need the pipe going into them.
They'll need to plug themselves in. Yeah.
It goes like, I don't know, like a Sontaran vent, probe vent or something like
that. Vent, they've got it'll be where their heart is.
I don't think they would have those voices either, because there's a terrible thing.
No.
There's a horrible thing in the 80s where they tended to have monsters with sort of high-pitched, wobbly voices, like the Candyman and the Warriors of the Deep Silurians, and I always hated those.
Funny enough, I was going the same way. I thought to myself, all right, they're going to be going crystal. It's going to sound a bit like the Krrotons.
Yeah.
Just not women. Although that would be fascinating, actually, if they were voiced by women.
Yeah, that would be better. See, you mentioned the Candyman there. I mean, that's the other direction they could have gone in. Fuck it up that way.
They're probably going to do something like something. I think it is one of those high-pitched wibbles.
We are the Krotons.
Yeah. Yeah.
but not like that, but more wibbly.
Warning.
It's not a hybrid.
All guns will be dispersed.
So high-pitched, warbly Eldrad Krotons.
Yes.
High-pitched, warbly Eldrad Krotons. High-pitched, warbly.
So the Doctor and Mel escape. It's quite striking that you see them actually at one point walk past a cyber spaceship.
Yes. From the previous story. Yeah.
Just from the previous story, just right in the foreground of shot. You're like,
Yeah. That's extraordinary. Is it the previous? It is, isn't it? It is. Yeah.
Like 2 episodes earlier.
So they wander past. We don't know what happened to one story before in Time Ram yet. We can't say. But we'll have to remember this. When we get to slot a story in before Sylvester McCoy's 3rd story, the Krotons, we'll have to remember there's going to be a thing in that we incorporate in the Krotons that they wander past.
Yeah, in 100 episodes time, we're going to remember that. Yeah,
absolutely, we'll be spot on with that.
We're really going to remember that.
We are that on the ball.
So yeah, the Krotons identify that the TARDIS dudes are not Gons.
Mm-hmm.
They captured Jamie. Yeah, I guess in our version, maybe it's not Jamie, maybe it's somebody else, but they capture someone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a hybrid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it could be. Maybe Mel gets left behind. Maybe the Doctor escapes and Mel gets trapped behind a doorway or something and stuck in there. I tell you what, I thought would be a good episode break would be where the TARDIS gets destroyed.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we do. They don't go back to maybe basically at the end of this that he takes a sample and he goes right back to the TARDIS straight away. We get out of here, we go straight to the TARDIS and analyze this. And the Kroton, they get their big hefty weapon out and go right, go after them. And he goes after them, but he's blind, but can actually walk in a quarry, which is more than the other Kroton could do. And disperses the TARDIS. And J&T has been all over that. He leaked that to the Sun, like 2 days before the episode's broadcast. And that evening, Doctor Who beats Coronation Street. That Wednesday evening.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, so we're kind of getting into episode 3 here in the original version.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of politics going on in the backgrounds. With Edic is asking Beta to help him fight the Krotons. I think he's already planning to fight them with slingshots and fire.
I love the way he kind of bigs that up as the height of their technology.
Yeah.
We've got slingshots and fire now. No pointy sticks for us.
We've got to stop dodging the Elec issue, all right? Who the hell's playing Elec? Is it just an actor who's good? Or is it a stunt cast? Because he's the bad guy. He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's really a stunt cast if he can. If J&T can find someone.
He is a very understated bad guy. I mean, he's not even, I don't think he's even in episode 2.
And to be fair, I mean, I'm thinking stunt casting, but you also got people like Maurice Colborne casting those.
Yeah.
I mean, Maurice Colborne would be great if he hadn't been Lytton, but this is Time Ram action.
Yeah.
He may not be Lytton because we don't know when the hell Resurrection of the Daleks is going to be made. So how about Maurice Colborne?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or who's the guy in Androzani? Stotzy.
Maurice Roives.
Maurice Roives. You see,
Oh,
I knew we needed the Maurice.
I think it's pronounced Roives. That's how I've always pronounced it. I'm not entirely sure.
Maurice Roives. That is not a Gond. Well, how about him? I think it's Roves, actually.
Yeah.
How about Maurice Roves?
Roves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we've got an Elec finally. So that's great because then you've got 2 really strong actors in Elec and Selris.
Yeah.
That becomes meaningful then, a lot more so than the original. If you've got good actors going for it like that.
Yeah, quite a lot of it is political shenanigans in episode 3. We've got Selris and Thara still looking after Thara, who started waking up.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of segue from going, I wonder what the Doctor's doing, to going, oh, that Edic. Oh, he's trying to have a revolution.
It really is full of padding, episode 3. I was thinking that when I was watching it. It's it would work a lot better as a 3-parter because
it would.
Just so much. Yeah.
There's kind of stuff happening with the politics that seems to happen twice, and you feel like you're only getting half the story. It's very weird.
And losing a companion really helps it as well. You don't need to have that extra kind of Jamie being captured and escaping, which is, that's it.
Yeah.
It's one of those, you can't deny it. Doctor Who does do those plot lines, or did.
A lot of the Jamie stuff doesn't make sense either, because they kind of say, "Oh, he is not a high brain," and stick him in a corner, and then don't disperse him or anything. They just kind of leave him there.
Yeah. Then
Occasionally, kind of.
Yeah.
Occasionally snark at him.
Yeah.
It's not even any use. Animal tissue is weak. I loved that line as a kid. Animal tissue is weak. And fuck that. They're taking the piss out of me as well. That's brilliant.
So the Doctor and Mel are collecting sulfur and tellurium. And this is kind of around the point where the TARDIS gets destroyed then. So
I think we've done that by now, haven't we? That's
Proton emerges with his big gun.
And this gives Sylvester, they have one TARDIS scene where they go and do the analysis, and this gives him the chance to get his new umbrella as well. So he can stroll out of the TARDIS next time holding it in front of him.
A little sort of Keff McCulloch twinkle.
With a Keff McCulloch twinkle, and Mel going, sigh. Have you not done the question? I know. I'm seeing what you jumper, mate. You don't. I've got it. Because she's going a bit the way of Yorkshire Perry.
So yeah, that's kind of the end of the episode. I guess that'd be the end of episode 2, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And then we come in for episode 3. The TARDIS returns via the Hads.
Absolutely. So we'll keep all the Had stuff in.
That's spot on for the McCoy era, mentioning something that's never been mentioned ever before.
That, my friends, is the Cartmel master plan in action.
Yes, so it's Rassilon installed this system with the help of
it will be Rassilon and I don't know, someone else. Who was that? Doctor? What?
Yeah.
Come along now.
Lily White Hands, yes.
And it was very convenient. So
yeah, the Hads.
So the Doctor and Mel they rejoin Thara and Varna.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all go to Beta and they persuade him to do some chemistry.
Yeah,
which has been hidden.
Hasn't Elek already been in there persuading him to do chemistry?
No, I think he's still concerned with fire and sling balls or sling.
Yeah, this is them saying basically make this now in quantity, isn't it?
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. They wanted to make some sulfuric acid.
Beta just does what he's told all the time. Beta is perfectly named.
What?
He is the Gond Beta.
Well, yeah, maybe Beta should have some unrequited pash for Vanna, and he's just constantly sighing.
this is the 80s. It might be an unrequited passion for Thara.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But that wouldn't be spoken of because the upper echelons wouldn't allow it still. So yeah, probably it would be Varna. Yeah, he'd walk around after a going this sigh and getting a little twinkle from Keff. Sad twinkle. Keff's sad twinkle. It makes you long for the days of what's his name, bashing his pipes.
Malcolm Clark.
Yeah, that would have been a great callback if I remembered the guy's name.
Wasn't he clanging? I seem to remember he was clanging.
He was clanging. Malcolm clanging in his corner. Yeah. And now Keff's doing a sad twinkle next to him.
So anyway, Elek is trying to oust him, and this prompts Selris to kind of lose his mind and attack the foundations of the machine, which I think we now know is called the Dynatrope.
The Dynatrope.
So yeah, they do that, and the roof starts to collapse, which probably wouldn't look much better in 1987 than it did in 1969.
Actually, doesn't look too bad in 69. I
think it's pretty good in 69. Yeah.
It would probably be worse in the 80s.
They're trying to lift the polystyrene rock off Thara, and it weighs about.
Oh yeah. I was thinking the model. Yeah. Having said that, this is a bit on the behind the scenes on the studio footage of Dragonfire, where Sylvester's trying to lift a polystyrene stalagmite off Blitz, which looks terrible, and they cut it.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't
polystyrene is polystyrene, apart from when it's jablite.
Thara turns up and helps them out anyway. The Dynatrope stabilizes, but it's damaged. And then here he comes. Elek launches his attack with slings and fireballs, which sounds a bit embarrassing, but he's still managing.
Yeah, but Morris Rose is selling it. Morris Rose with his beard kind of, being cynical about it, going, all right, we're going to bring in the slings and the fireballs now.
The slings and fireballs of outrageous fortune.
And it's great. It's great proper drama, this is.
Yeah, I imagine those two really kind of, knocking chunks out of each other.
And it's going to look really weird when Sylvester and Mel walk into the middle of that. Kind of, isn't it? That's going to be jarring.
So a Kroton comes out of the spaceship and he says he will leave in return for high brains, and Elix up for that. So so he promises to hand over the Doctor and Mel. So yeah, in the original, this is around the point where Jamie is escaping, and he's just not doing anything. He's sent off to make some acid with Beta.
No.
But I don't know what Beta needs him for. So Elix captures the Doctor and Mel. So as things are heating up now, the Krotons have about 22 minutes of energy left before they explode.
I guess that sadly their heads aren't spinning.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Be funny if they were like humanoid and their heads
It
were
would,
still-
and you could do it.
Difficult to achieve in 1987.
No, you just do the torso. Like Kane's melting head, and you just like spin the heads. They're going so fast.
Just get Sue Moore to sculpt the heads.
You've got
them
random
spinning
spinning
around
heads.
on
I think great, they're still doing that, and that's just this random piece of surrealism, which is sorely needed by that point. That kind of madness.
It's properly mad.
Cool. Spinning heads, nice.
So yeah, there's a bit of shenanigans with the acid. The Krotons capture the Doctor and Mel, and then Selris has like one bottle of acid, which he jumps through the door after them.
Yep.
And then gets dispersed.
Oh, Philip Maddock's gone.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
What is death like? He'll give it his all. It'll be a good death scene. It'll be a good death scream. Farewell, Philip Maddock. Thank you for services to this story.
Above and beyond.
High brain. Always a high brain.
Quite a high forehead. So
Yeah,
presumably he's got
yeah.
a high brain inside it.
So they're down to now 12 minutes before the Dynatrope explodes, but the Doctor's now got his little bottle of acid.
Good.
I should mention that the Krotons are kind of explaining at this point that they've been absorbing Gond mental power for thousands of years. And then obviously the two brightest Gonds kind of get dispersed. It kind of keeps the Gonds down, but they're also using their mental power to recharge their spaceship so they can take off.
Yeah.
And essentially, I think the Gonds are in a bit of a bind here, because if the Krotons take off, I think it destroys the planet. And if they don't take off, they explode and it destroys the planet.
Does it destroy the planet?
So in the local area.
Oh, right. Well, they could run away. They could go and visit the Wonds. On the hill. Yeah. All right, Wonds with the Gons. All right, Gons. All right. What have you been up to? Well, we got invaded. Did you?
How are the four non-blondes?
Who did you get? Oh, we got the Krotons. Oh, we got the Trods.
I was sorted in 5 seconds.
Get yourselves lucky. We got the fucking Cybermen. There's quite a nice little scene where Elix he's done everything he needs to do, and he's like, right, I'm off to the hills now. You can all die. I'll see you later.
Yep.
And he just walks off, and that's it. That's the last we see of him.
That's completely stopped. That's utterly stopped. I'm just Elix, as far as I'm concerned, has been played all the way through as Stotts. Bye, Krrrota. Bye, Beta. And he's just off.
It's so unusual that the villain just completely gets away with it and just wanders off.
Yeah. He's ripe for a return.
Yeah.
The Vengeance of
sequel.
Elix.
Yeah. Return of
It's
Elix.
up there on my list of bits to see, along with Son of Cal, who turns up, claim revenge on Tsar. It's great.
So yeah, the Doctor and Mel poison the Kroton slurry with sulfuric acid, and they do a nice little switcheroo scene where they're kind of oh, you stand there, no, you stand there, and they kind of play the time.
This will be the pratfalls. This is season 24. This is Sylvester's going to start falling around.
Sylvester was going to be playing the spoons at this point, isn't he?
Playing the spoons on Mel, on the Krotons, on the machine.
Yeah.
And the Krotons are getting a bit irate.
Yeah.
As are the audience, I imagine. This won't have been half as good.
The Krotons collapse.
Mm-hmm.
They don't explode. I'm not quite sure. That's never really explained. But the Doctor and Mel escape while Beta's turned up with his big vat of acid and they're pouring out all over the Dynatrope. So that's just dissolving away now.
Yep.
I think when they collapse, they'd be all kind of dissolvey facey,
Like the vampires in Fenrir.
Yeah.
There'd be more of a horror element,
that they only dare show about like 5% of, because the rest of it's too horrible.
Yeah.
Especially because the year before they got away with the ice guy. What was his name? Melted.
Kane.
An absolute horrific effect, and then
great effect, superb.
Yeah.
Nothing unexpected at the time. That was kind of like, wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah.
In terms of quality of effect as well.
Yeah.
It's like the trial station. You suddenly go, bloody hell, Doctor Who looks at, all right.
And then by Curse of Fenric, that's just too horrifying. No, we can't go there.
Yeah. Despite the entire rest of Fenric being much more horrifying psychologically, theoretically, than Dragonfire. Although Dragonfire is more horrifying than Fenric in many, many ways.
That's basically it, yeah. Everyone's saying, oh, well done. And the Doctor just fucks off. And
Doctor Mel back off the TARDIS,
Yeah, and it just ends. It just stops.
And the Krotons are melted and Elex lurking behind a rock in the quarry somewhere.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see how they would handle the Dynatrope melting in those days, because the 80s was so much about those like fuck off explosions, wasn't it? They loved their really enormous explosions. And
I imagine that Mike Tucker's made a really big model Dynatrope and they kind of melted it and then exploding it and then melting it.
Wax. Yeah. I think they'd use wax. You'd actually use something like that and melt it, like the thing in Quatermass when it melts Quatermass in the pit. I'd guess to do something like that. I don't know if they'd explode it because it's right next to the Gond settlement.
Yeah.
Unless the model shot has the Gond settlement over there, there's enough explosion space, in which case they'll have an explosion.
Maybe it would be weeping like the City of the Excellence. I'm melting.
My pillars, my buttresses, oh dear.
Oh, pity the poor Dynatrope. Anyway.
The Lament of the Dynatrope, loving
it. We're back in Doctor Who annual territory there, aren't
we? They're all the better for it.
No,
it's not going to do anything imaginative. It's going to have an enormous crescendo by Keff.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely, the ending, it'll be exactly like the end of Time in the Rani, won't it? They'll all fuck off back to the club and stand the ring around it while Thara goes, now we're free and we can go forward with our little bottle of potion.
Here's to the future.
Here's to the future. And as you say, they fuck off.
Yeah.
One last gag about crystal healing or something.
The end. Okay. That was Sylvester McCoy's The Krotons. Yeah. How would we rate that then?
Now, the funny thing about that was that I've kind of always liked the Krotons.
I love it.
But I don't think that works as a Sylvester McCoy story.
Yeah.
Because so much of it's carried by Troughton?
Yeah, maybe the way that the other ones, the one that we did last week, did kind of work. I don't think this kind of works as much.
Maybe it's just a bit too old-fashioned a story to kind of fit into the 80s. I don't know.
Well, we did say at the beginning, obviously it wouldn't be, one, we are cutting out a lot of the padding by making it 3 parts. 2, we didn't go into it, but we said that they would talk a lot more about the intellectual oppression of the Gonds and make it political in that way.
Yeah.
About the education, like the general talking about in the prison, talking about the education system or something like that. Though, Cartmel wasn't being that overtly political in season 24.
No.
He was finding his feet.
Paradise Towers is obviously about, general town block problems and stuff like that. So it's in the mix. I think he would.
Yeah, Paradise Towers. But does that come from Stephen Wyatt? The other 3 aren't really at all, are they?
I think 24 is really to me, it's very much a kind of culture clash where you've got JNT kind of at his most sort of
Goddish.
Yeah, garish. And then in comes Cartmel, who's got a completely different spin on it. And it's kind of neither one thing nor the other.
I think it works, actually. I think it would work quite well as a Sylvester McCoy story. I think it would be quite a good one because the central concept's interesting. And despite the fact it's padded, it's a well-told Robert Holmes story, in a yarn with enough different characters in.
I just remember being bored by it in 1981. I was not taken with it at all as a 9-year-old, but I really enjoyed it this time.
Yeah.
It might be because I've watched a bunch of Out of the Unknown. Compared to that, it's really fast-paced. It really goes for it.
I was mesmerised by it in 81. Like I was saying about the Keys of Marinus, I'm watching a Patrick Troughton story. It could have been sitting there reading the phone book, and then it was one of the very earliest ones I got on Pirate because you could get those stories from the Five Faces season more easily for a start. So I got a sort of half decent copy, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Found it quite atmospheric. Obviously noted more the flaws in it. But wasn't. Then by the 90s, I'd got to loving it ironically, like people in the 20s love things.
Yeah.
And now I'm back to just completely unreservedly loving it. It's silly. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's one of the few complete Troughton stories.
You think it's better or worse for now being a 3-part Sylvester McCoy story?
Is any Troughton story better for being a McCoy story? No.
Also, I think the black and white covers a multitude of sins, and I
think it would look garish and cheap. I think the inside of the Dynatrope would look like Marb's station. Yeah. All bright white plasticky stuff and completely devoid of atmosphere, and without even a cyber ship stuck in the middle.
That's the question, though, isn't it? Would they do it entirely on location, film in a tent?
There's too many studio interiors for it. It would be It would be like Time in the Rani. It would be, partially outside, partially in. You couldn't do the Dynatrope on the interiors on location.
So, marks out of 10?
I'm just going to say about 5 for this because I don't think it works as well.
It's difficult to not be middling, isn't it? I'll say 6 to be different to 5.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, it's the best one of season 24 by a long way. Sorry, Buzz?
I'll say 5 to be the same as 5. So.
A middling, entertaining Doctor Who story from the late 80s.
Yay.
Sylvester McCoy's first season. Saddled with that horrible title sequence and music and all the trappings that came with those seasons. But with really good model work. Model and effects work. Really good model and effects work. Far better than the Impact.
Most impressively of all, written by Robert Holmes the year after he died.
Which is remarkable. I mean,
yes.
That's remarkable. So
yeah,
that's professional.
Time travel, yeah.
Fair play.
That's the exciting thing. Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
So, do you want to hear what's next?
Yay!
We've got Tom Baker, which is always good news. Are you ready?
Okay.
Power of 3.
Oh.
Yeah.
Exactly my reaction. Both of you blank. Oh, what? Yeah. That nothing suggests straight away, does it?
Yeah.
For starters, there's only kind of one. I was going to say there's only one lineup I can think of with 3 of them, but there are others towards the end. So.
Yeah.
I was thinking Sarah and Harry, but obviously towards the end there are other trilogies.
Let's see where the time ram takes us.
Oh.
For we are but at its whims and caprices.
Okay, well, that was Time Ram. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time when we will be discussing Tom Baker in
3.
Power 3.
3. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hey.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
You're going to sign off like that every time. Well, as the sun sets on another episode of Time Ram, I'd just like to say thank you for listening. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we're all on Twitter. I'm at BazTimeRam. Rupert is at Rupert Booth, and Paul is at PaulVariate. You can also find us on Facebook and our own website, timeram.com. For those of you who like such things, there's also an email address, info@timeram.com, and I'm sure there's other ways to get in touch as well. You can probably send a pigeon. That would work as well. I need to thank Ben Jones for providing our music, and if you would wish to help support production of the show, please consider coming and see us at Patreon, where you get access to all kinds of lovely things.
right, there's no need to shout. Go away and don't fuss me. Come back, what's this? It's all right, I know.
Oh, my giddy aunt.
High grade. You drive me insane. You make everything moving. High grade. I think you may be a high grade. Test your mind. So come on over to the Dynatrope. You move me. Not a god. Exposure to the concept. Animal tissue is weak. And the power will kill it. No, she is a high grade. We must now transfer the Dynatrope to our cosmos. But this is a warning. All